to Got News on Political News. We're back again with you this week. Now, we may have a little, some not political difficulties, but some technical difficulties where Bill is at. Their storm has been coming through there from the hurricane, kind of the aftermath. So if we have any difficulties, Bill will try to come back on and go in and out of the broadcast. So hopefully that won't happen. But we're still praying for everybody who's been impacted by Hurricane Harvey. There are still people in Texas who have a lot of needs down there and a lot of donations that need to go there. Also for the people in Florida and the surrounding areas that are dealing with Hurricane Irma. I think a lot of that, Bill, we're very fortunate that Florida didn't turn out to be as bad as some had forecasted, depending upon what area you are in Florida.
Yeah, I guess the people in Key West might see it a little differently, but
exactly.
Yeah, but considering what they were building it up to be, this great harbinger of death, it seems like that they didn't get it as bad as what they thought they were going to do, or what they thought they were going to get. But it's a lot of destruction. A lot of people are without power, and having lived in Florida for 10 years, to be in 90-degree heat and humidity with no air conditioning, that's about as close to hell as I want to get.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that I know down there, are without electricity. They're having to make their meals on camping stoves outside and, just trying to recover, waiting for the water to recede. And, it was pretty massive. It was great to see those that were coming together and helping each other and not waiting for the government, but just in Texas and in Florida, getting out there and helping each other get back on their feet. It was discouraging to hear some of the allegations that were talked about in regards to the Red Cross and how the Red Cross were taking the donations away from people in the churches and selling them for some instances. And I don't say that lightly. I know some of the groups that were volunteering, and they have confirmed for me that did actually happen. And if that's true, I'll leave it as allegations at the Red Cross. They will never see another dime from me ever. So,
well, I heard reports from public officials in Texas who were saying, if you're going to donate, don't donate to Red Cross. So, I don't know. That's what I've read. So,
yeah. And if that happened, and like I said, the people that told me that it happened, I find that very shameful behavior for any organization that would do that. And I would encourage people to go to those organizations and donate to them that give 100% to the people out there in need. So again, we hope that the Red Cross will find the way out of the darkness. Let's just say that.
I've had a little interaction with Samaritan's Purse, and we've donated to Samaritan's Purse and feel comfortable about that. So a lot of people in great need today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to remind those people that are coming in, please feel free to comment. Feel free to ask questions. We are having some technical difficulties on Bill's end because where he's at in the part of the state that he's in, they're having some aftermath, from the hurricanes that are left over. So we're going to try to keep that going as long as we can, and hopefully we'll have it straight through and won't have any problems. I did want to start this week with talking about, I don't know, once again, Bill, I've seen a lot of, I call it Christian persecution, and it wasn't, a lot of times it hasn't been so obvious, but it's becoming more and more obvious, it seems to me. I don't know what your thoughts about that are.
Oh, we're talking about when the Senate and those hearings there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just in general, though, to begin with, I mean, have you seen more what you feel are more like Christian persecution just coming out in different things?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's long been an attempt to silence Christians, believers, people who actually promote what the Bible says. And it just gathers steam because what happens is people push and they try to take a mile and they get pushed back a half mile, but they've made ground. And so they push a little farther and they feel like they can get away with it more and more and more and more. And it's just a progression. So yeah, I mean, definitely so. going ahead and bringing some biblical concept in here. You and I, mankind, was created with the ability to articulate thoughts, concepts, ideas. And as believers, we are to be witnesses for what is true. That means we have to speak. So what's the best way to shut that down? To put us in a situation where we can't speak, or to take us off of a platform that has great access. So yeah, there's just this pervasive mentality to silence us in whatever capacity, whether it's in a public office or whether it's just somebody trying to run a business the way they want to run it.
Well, I think too, last week it was pretty obvious that we're getting farther down the rabbit hole, if you will, and that type of thing happening. Senator Dianne Feinstein from California was one of, I think, the biggest offenders in that area when they were having a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing in regards to one of the people that President Trump wants to be a federal judicial nominee for federal court. Amy Barrett is her name. She's a Notre Dame law professor, and she was chosen to be a federal judge on the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago. And it came up, and I mean, to me, it was rather surprising that this would come up, and it was so blatant that Dianne Feinstein felt that she couldn't be a good judge because she's a Catholic and a Christian. And some of the things that she said is when you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. That's what Dianne Feinstein, said to Amy Barrett. She said that there are concerns when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country. And she later said that she was talking about abortion. And she reminded her that dogma and law are two different things. And Feinstein said, I think whatever religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different.
Wow. Let me see. Where do I begin? First of all, isn't Dianne Feinstein like 1,000 years old now? I mean,
1,000 or more. Okay.
Shouldn't she be thinking about retirement, in the next, century or two? Ironically, she says that law and dogma are two separate issues. God is life, and he's about life. And so if she was, phrasing that within the context of abortion, quote unquote, rights, that's dogma. My right to an abortion, it's my body. That's dogma. That's the mindset of people. Law is God is all about life. He's not about death. That's law. So yeah. It's just mind-blowing that she would say that. And at the same time, I'm not surprised. But she's right that dogma and law are two separate things. But the law here is that God is about life. He's always promoting life. And finally, it's fascinating that she would say this to someone because they're a Catholic, seeing that she is part of the party of John F. Kennedy. Because we go back 50 some odd years when Kennedy was running for president. What was the big issue? Well, he's a Catholic,
Right.
So it's just kind of interesting, but it is just mind-numbing to think that someone would basically say that our laws supersede God's laws. Are you going to be able to do that?
Well, and also it's kind of absurd in the fact that our laws come from biblical principles. That's where they come from. And abortion has nothing to do with biblical principles at all. And as you're saying too, she's saying religion has its own dogma. Each religion has that. Well, religion is a way, it's disciplined, and depending on, if let's say the Christian faith, it's a disciplined religion. And I think a lot of times that those on the left look at it as a dogma, that, if you're trying to tell people what they need to do, then that's somehow dogmatic, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And again, we're moving farther and farther away from Christian principles based upon those beliefs from the liberal left.
Well, there is religious dogma. No, I won't argue that point. And there are varying philosophies, even within Christianity, from denomination to denomination. There's a big difference between Catholicism and Protestants. Within Protestant,
Right.
There's huge differences within different denominations. I was raised in a Pentecostal church. My wife was raised Baptist. There's dogmatic distinctions there. But the promotion of life, that's not dogma. That's just a rule. That's just a law of the universe. That is something that is an expression of the Creator himself. So Ms. Feinstein, boy, her liberal dogma has clouded her judgment.
Yeah. But, also, Bill, the things that you talk about when you're saying you were Pentecostal, raised Pentecostal, your wife was raised Baptist, the dogma that comes out of that is man-made.
Right.
It's not biblical principle. And when I hear her talking about that, when I hear Nancy, not Nancy, but God, I get the two are so much alike. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein. But when I
all from California,
I know. But when I hear her talking like that, I think she's talking to the heart of Christian principles. I mean, I do think some of it has with her bias of Catholicism, which, again, as you said, she was with, the Kennedy, Catholic people. And also, I think she went to a Catholic high school. She has roots somewhere in Catholicism. But it's really obvious to me that it's more about Christian principles and principles of the Bible that she is wanting to refer to as being dogmatic.
right? That's
where you and I would disagree with that on her.
No, I don't know that I'm disagreeing. We're not disagreeing at all. I'm saying there is
with her,
such a thing. Oh, with her, yes, absolutely. She's calling what is universal law dogma,
right? And
what she believes in, she's calling law. When that's just the dogma that comes out of her way of thinking, her mind, her religion. I'm not talking about her Judaism or her whatever she is. I'm talking about her liberal progressive religion. It's the dogma of that religion.
And it's funny that people on the left that are, so far liberal left, they don't see that what their ideology is a dogma, is dogmatic. And it also is, like you said, it's their religion. They might call it religion, but it is their religion. And if you don't agree with their religion, they're very dogmatic. They tell you should believe in what they believe in,
Absolutely.
Or you're the one in the wrong.
Absolutely. And the fact that she is, a longtime senator is and not just her, but others who think like her. And the ones that are from California up and coming, what's her name? Kamala Harris.
Don't remind me. Yes.
You just keep pushing them out the door out there. They just, there's just a long line of them keep coming from California.
It's the water.
Well, anyway, it's just sad that this is what the country is led by.
Well, and talking about Kamala Harris, since you brought her up, just recently she was asked if a convicted felon should be able to be a congressperson, because we're talking about Menendez, and I think people are kind of anticipating that he may be a convicted felon here pretty soon. Not that he is right now, but she was asked about that in her opinion, and 10 times she refused to give her opinion as to whether or not a convicted felon should be able to serve in Congress. So, California, I know.
Your Democratic presidential candidate 2020. Watch and see.
It will absolutely. She's absolutely being groomed for that. Also, who spoke out the other day in regards to this judge, that is Judge Barrett, hopefully soon to be Judge Barrett, was Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, who asked, another state, not only California, but who asked her, are you an Orthodox Catholic? Now we moved beyond asking her about her religious beliefs to, are you Orthodox Catholic? Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's same as when we were talking about Feinstein. I mean, Dick Durbin is of that. He's in that club, that progressive. Let's suppress biblical principle as it rears its head in our society. He's going to play that game. So, Dick Durbin's no friend to believers. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, and it's pretty funny because a lot of times, after they're trying to make excuses now why they really asked her that, because the Constitution says that to hold any type of public office, your religious beliefs should not prevent you from holding a public office, and you shouldn't be asked about your religious beliefs. Now, I guess these particular Democrats didn't read that, don't really care about the Constitution, as many on the liberal left don't care about the Constitution anymore, and they felt that it was absolutely appropriate to ask her these questions. But what they've tried to say is, it really wasn't about religion. We were asking her that because in 1998, she wrote something that said, if you're a Catholic, let's say, it was a law review article. If you're Catholic and you don't believe in the death penalty, as a judge, what would you do if a death penalty case came before you? Now, as you might expect, as a judge, she didn't say, there should never be a death penalty case. It's against my religion and therefore I don't believe in it. But what she did say was, I would recuse myself. Sounds reasonable, right?
Right.
So they're trying to say that's why we asked her. Didn't have anything to do with religion whatsoever.
Well, I've raised 4 kids, and kids push. They want to push the envelope. They want to see what they can get away with. If they ask dad something and dad says no, they'll go to mom to see what mom says without dad knowing about it.
Right.
Anybody with any common sense can see what this is really all about. And people are going to try to get away with as much as they can if anybody calls them on it. And by the way, why aren't Republicans, maybe somebody has and I've missed it, if no one calls them on it?
Yeah, if we lost your audio a little bit there, but you're saying if nobody calls them on it, it just keeps going, and it's going to get worse. And I think it's something where we need to do something about it. I think perhaps that we didn't do something about it as conservatives and Republicans because the hurricane hit and everything was focused on that. It seems like when Republicans finally have the backbone and they want to speak up, a hurricane comes along. Bill, I don't know what it is, but it happens.
Or immigration,
Yeah, something happens that they don't get
something like that.
But I would have to. Well, I was going to say I would have to say that I think that they're misinformed about this, meaning the Democrats, because when Sonia Sotomayor and John Roberts, who are both Democrats and both Catholics, they seem like Democrats. John Roberts isn't supposed to be, but anyway, when they were being confirmed, they weren't asked those same questions. And again, look how long ago that was as compared to now and where we've gone along the line and how much farther we've slipped in that regard.
I'm afraid it's just going to get regard. And back over. We're not going to be able to put our confidence, politicians, leaders, we're not going to be able to put our full confidence in them because people are going to fail us. Governments are going to fail us. They're not going to do what they say they're going to do. There's only one that we can turn to. There's only one who really deserves all of our trust and confidence, and that's the Creator. In the meantime, we just deal with these situations that we're given. We try to speak up, stand up, press for what is right, and fight the good fight as long as we can. And hopefully this questioning or this line of questioning is not going to undermine the appointment of this person. we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it seems like that it's not going to, but the damage is done just in asking the questions and being allowed to ask those questions.
And get away with asking those questions.
And get away with asking them. And as you said, did anybody speak out? The president of Notre Dame, where this woman is a professor, he did speak out. And he said basically some of those words were that it was chilling to listen to these senators ask these type of questions. And he said, your concern, as you expressed it, is that dogma lives loudly in Professor Barrett, and that it is a concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country. He said, I am one in whose heart dogma lives loudly, as it has for centuries in the lives of many Americans, some of whom have given their lives in service to this nation. Indeed, it lived loudly in the hearts of those who founded our nation as one where citizens could practice their faith freely and without apology. It is chilling to hear from a United States senator that this might now disqualify someone from service as a federal judge.
Well,
so
good for him.
Yeah,
good,
exactly.
Good for him. Some of the senators should have echoed that statement.
Yeah, and
our congressman should echo that statement.
Right, and I think Ben Sasse did. He was one of the Republicans that did, who basically, when it came his time, he let Ms. Barrett say what the Constitution has to say about religious beliefs when you're being looked at for any type of political, for office in Congress or judge or anything like that. So yeah. I was glad that he said something.
Well, good. Hey, I just want to remind everybody that's coming in, I'm having some technical issues on my end. I hope you can hear me. Hope you can see me. We had remnants of Irma come through and trees down, power lines down, a lot of power outages. And so I'm kind of crippled today. So
well, at least you can use that excuse today.
Yeah, I can use that excuse today. What about all the other times?
Next week. Exactly. Next week we'll find another one for you, but
okay. All right.
Yeah. Every now and then your audio does freeze a little. I hope people, understand today. It's one of those things that's going to happen. We can't help the weather. We're just lucky to have internet because Bill's studio, the internet is completely down. So
yeah, it's down. So
it's down. Also, Bill, I wanted to tell you that a Princeton University professor or president, I should say, also spoke out. And I wanted to kind of tell you what he said. He said that the senators should refrain from interrogating nominees about their religious or spiritual foundations of their jurisprudential views, because religious belief is constitutionally irrelevant to the qualifications for a federal judgeship. The Senate should not interrogate any nominee about those beliefs. I believe more specifically that those questions directed to Professor Barrett about her faith were not consistent with the principles set forth in the Constitution's no religious test clause. And, I think that's good because, again, we've seen for so many years now how the liberal left is trying to make the Constitution irrelevant and say that it's an outdated document. So we're getting a double whammy from religious beliefs and from the Constitution. Both are being attacked. Kind of go hand in hand.
I was going to say it's kind of one and the same because the Constitution was inspired by documents that were based on biblical principles. So there's a connection between the two.
And we still see, each day we talk about on this show, because I bring it up, we talk about how communism is trying to take over. And I know some people think that may be a conspiracy type theory. It really isn't. Antifa, other groups, it's about communism. It's about trying to undo everything in America that we hold dear, including, as we have seen, our faith and our religious beliefs themselves. So this is just one more extension, if you will, of seeing the senators ask questions like this, where we're moving away from God and religion and our beliefs towards a more, secular, anti-God approach.
When I was a young fella, my father had me read the Communist Manifesto to be acquainted with the philosophies and the methodology of, communists. And I only say that to make this point. Call it a conspiracy theory all you want to. This is what's happening. You know, there are many who have that mindset that are within our government, federal, state, municipal. It's obvious, and so it's a creeping vine, so to speak. But eventually, it'll choke the life out if we allow it to happen. It'll choke the life out of this country.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you know, one thing that I was happy to see, there was a story that came out, and I think one man has it right, and I think we need to follow his example of how to keep this from, like, as you call it, creeping and choking out Christianity in the United States. There's a man in Wisconsin. His name is Kevin, and he owns a Dairy Queen. He's a franchisee owner in Dairy Queen, and he basically, what he did was, he had a sign that he posted on his store that said, you know, some of the people coming in here may find me politically incorrect, because we in here, sometimes we say Merry Christmas, we say Happy Easter, we say God bless America, you know, and I'll tell you, I was very happy to see that somebody is really starting to take the stance of, look, I'm a Christian. This is the store I own. I welcome everybody, but this is who I am. These are my beliefs. And when you come in here, this is what you can expect.
Yeah, I read about that, how the sign was a response to someone who had complained about hearing Christian music play while they were in there. And I thought, are you that self-absorbed? This, you know, whoever this person was. And then, you know, the answer is yes. It's all about me, and I'm offended. Okay, so what? You're offended. Don't come back. Don't come in here. That there, kind of tying it to what we were just talking about, there is this progressive mindset, if you want to call it socialist, what have you. There's this mindset that because they've gotten away with this kind of garbage for so long, they can go into someone's private business. I don't like the music you're playing. I want it stopped. And think that you know, that's what needs to happen. And unfortunately, because of political correctness, so many businesses, corporations, school districts have caved to groups like Freedom from Religion Foundation. That has kind of bolstered this idea. I can go in, if I don't like something, I'm going to complain about it, threaten to sue, and shut it down. So good for this guy, this gentleman in Wisconsin. As I told you before we came on, if they didn't like his sign, they sure wouldn't like my sign that I would put up in my business. But good for him. And hopefully he's going to have the wherewithal to just kind of stick to his guns on this and not cave to pressures. You know, continue to play Christian music and continue to say, God bless you. And if somebody gets some heartburn over that, well, then they could go to Burger King.
Right. Eat something other than ice cream. Well, and you know what, Bill, what I don't like is the fact that whenever anything about Christianity is involved now, it's automatically equated with political incorrectness. I mean, he has to say on a sign, this is, I may be politically incorrect. What he's saying is, I am a Christian, and you may find this politically incorrect. Where did that come from? We need to stop that. We need to stop that, equating Christianity with political incorrectness. And even as Christian, we need to quit saying that, I think, because it just fosters that false claim that somehow being a Christian, there's something wrong with being a Christian.
I agree with that. Is as far as this gentleman's sign and what he was trying to express, I take it, or I took it when I read it, that he was just kind of putting everybody on warning. Hey, if you're going to come in here, expect this kind of behavior, expect music, all this kind of stuff. I guess my approach would be, I might not put up a sign, but if somebody complained about it, I'd probably say, well, go somewhere else. You know?
Yeah, well, and even this guy said, look, if you're that opposed to having any type of religious aspects of it, I'll make arrangements for you so that you won't have to be exposed to it all. He's being very cognizant of his customers and knows that some may not like it, but he's also saying, because you don't like it doesn't mean I have to give up my religious beliefs. I'll accommodate yours, but you accommodate mine.
Yeah, and I hope he won't. I hope he won't. And I hope the people in the town will support him.
The people in the town, for the most part, say that they do support him and feel that we know they're saying we love each other here. We love his idea that this is who he is. We do support him, and that's kind of who we are. I see that Robin said, I love going to places like Chick-fil-A and Sweet Frog. They play Christian music. And Jeff says that this person has other 7-Eleven options they can, spend their money on. They need to get over themselves. But, I don't know about you, and if your Chick-fil-A's and where you are, Bill, but in California again, Chick-fil-A used to have Christian music where they would be singing the words. And somebody complained about that. So now Chick-fil-A in California, at least, just plays the music without the words.
I'm going to have to plead ignorance here. When I go into Chick-fil-A or a restaurant or a business, the first thing on my mind is not what music are they playing. My first business is I'm hungry and I'm here to get something to eat, or I need to buy something.
Yeah.
But I understand that Chick-fil-A is a Christian-owned business, very adamantly so, from what I've seen, and good for them. But it just seems to me that people go around looking for something to be offended about.
Well,
they just go and looking to pick a fight,
I don't think they're offended, Bill. I mean, I honestly don't. I think it's all about, I don't want this religion. I don't want your religion in my life. It's not about offended. It's a part of that communist movement. Let's get rid of God. Let's get God out of the public eye, and I don't have to deal with it. And I don't really necessarily think they're offended. I mean, I think in a lot of respects, if it weren't for the fact that they felt that way and they were communists or anti-God, they wouldn't care at all. I mean, but this is a way to further shut down what they're opposed to.
Yeah, well, they're not content to live their godless life in their godless house. They want to spread that around. So isn't that a religious fervor in and of itself?
Yes.
To further the religion of godlessness?
Yes.
And I'm going to go into this business and I'm going to go into that place and I'm going to further my religious views. And so here again, we see that those who do the accusing accuse others of what they themselves are guilty of.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I mean, seriously, the world is so upside down. I mean, it really is. But we were warned this was going to happen. But it's accusing you of doing the same thing that they're doing, and they absolutely do not see that.
No, because how do I want to say this? Liberalism, progressivism, I've heard it said many, many times, and I agree with it. It is a mental disorder born out of deficiency. It's a spiritual deficiency to begin with. And so anyway, that's how I see it.
Joseph has another question for you. He says, hey, Bill, how is Chick-fil-A's food? I was thinking of going there for the first time.
You know what? It's okay. I'm not okay. This is definitely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Okay. When I eat chicken, I like legs and thighs. I don't like chicken breast. It's too dry. So I'm not a Chick-fil-A patron, not because of any mindset or philosophy or anything. It's just that when I want chicken, I want a chicken leg. I don't want a chicken breast. So I can't answer the question.
So you're saying that you discriminate against Chick-fil-A
based upon the fact that they only serve chicken breast, white meat, and they don't serve legs. Yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah, so it's a food preference. Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing. Here's how I deal with it. I don't go in there and demand that Chick-fil-A start using dark meat in their Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Exactly.
You know what I do? I get some chicken from the grocery store and I throw it on my grill.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's that.
That's
It's just
probably
that
way
easy.
too much information, but anyway.
But it's just that easy. And as for me and Chick-fil-A, I love Chick-fil-A. I love only white meat. Don't love the dark meat. Want the chicken breast. Don't want the legs or the thighs. So I'm just the opposite of that. And I really like it. And you can also get, you don't have to have it deep fried. You can have it grilled or, whatever. So great selection, great people, love the atmosphere. Jeffrey says, as if not hearing about faith and belief changes anything, what I mean is this: if they don't hear it, it must not exist. Hence, conviction can't happen. Hence, they are fearful of conviction of their own false beliefs. I'm not sure I followed all that, but I don't know if you did or not.
Keep talking about the people.
And we lost your audio. Can you say that again?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think he was commenting in respect to people going into, say, Chick-fil-A and complaining about hearing Christian music. I think that's what he said.
All right.
Okay. All right, because you and I got way off on talking about, dark meat or you white meat,
I know, and now I'm hungry thanks to you.
Maybe we should contact Chick-fil-A and say, hey, we just gave you like 5 minutes of free advertising. So
yeah, they owe us something.
Yeah.
And whatever Bill doesn't want to eat, I will, because he doesn't even like your food. But
No. I'll eat the French fries.
Okay, all right. That you're safe then on that. I think, again, getting back to it, I just think it's really bad when whether it's in school or whether it's in a restaurant, that when we support God and country, somehow these days that is, that's politically incorrect, that somehow that is offensive to other people, that we even have to go to the point where we say, hey, look, this is what I believe, and if you don't like it, don't come here. Not in that respect, didn't say it that bad, but I mean, just put it in a nice way. I don't think you should have to talk about your religious beliefs in anything. I don't think that you should have to explain to somebody, well, maybe you should or shouldn't come here because of the fact that, I have a different belief than you. I just think it's gotten way out of hand.
I'm the kind of person that I don't go out trying to offend people. I'm not going to try to purposely offend someone. But if they get offended, I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
If they're being offended by who and what I am as it relates to standing up for what's right and what's biblical and what's true, if they get offended at that, I'm not really worried about it. I'm not concerned. They're just going to have to be offended. Let me relate this to you. There is a passage in the Gospel of John. Are you still hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay. There's a passage in the Gospel of John. And basically, the Messiah says, unless you eat of my body and drink of my blood, you'll have no part of me. And it's sad that lots of people who had been following him for a long time, all of a sudden are offended at what he said. They said, this is hard. Who can bear this? And they left. They didn't follow him anymore. All right, so they got offended. They left. All right, here's what he did not say in response to their being offended. He didn't say, oh, let me clarify what I meant by that. Come back and let me tell you what I really meant by that, because you just misunderstood me. No, he didn't say a word. He let them walk away. He turned to the 12 and he said, are you going to leave too? My point, if we're standing up for what's right and what's true, it will be offensive. We need to quit worrying about whether the truth offends. Let me go ahead and let you in on it. It does.
Yeah.
What is righteous, it offends the world. It offends the flesh. It offends the carnal nature. They're going to be offended by it. You might as well get over it. And if it's about you want everybody to like you, that's going to be a problem, because later on, if you stand for what's true, what's right, you're going to be persecuted for it. So we just need to get behind us that they're going to be offended.
Yeah, and it's like Jeff said, agreed. If those on the left don't have to defend their beliefs, why do believers not only defend, but they're apologetic for their beliefs? And Joseph said if they are offended of God, they would have to burn their money, because it says, in God we trust on the money. And maybe their excuse to take the upcoming techno mark of the beast by the computer chip, et cetera, et cetera. It's absolutely true. We as Christians we spend more time apologizing for who we are and our beliefs. And when you say that people, shouldn't worry about that, or you're not concerned if you offend anybody, I agree with you. And that's exactly who I am and the way I've always done things. But these people, a lot like Dairy Queen owners, bakers, they are worried about it, because a lot of times they're becoming bankrupt over the fact that they decided they wouldn't bake a cake for someone. So, it is very difficult to try to fight this and try to protect your family and everything else. On the other hand, I'm that either that crazy or whatever, or that stubborn or doing the right thing, that if it were my business, I would run it the way that God tells me to, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, A, it's really easy for you and me to say that. B, I totally agree with you, 110%. These people who are like the bakery, the florist, all these different people who've had issues with the LGBTQ, ABDC, EFG group, I don't, whatever they are now. They've taken a stand. I realize that people have livelihoods, they have businesses, and they're trying to grow their business, and they don't want to intentionally offend somebody.
Right.
All right, I understand that. I get that. But there comes a point in time you have to make a choice. You, me, all of us, the bakery, the florist, we all have to make a choice. Who do we serve? The dollar or the creator? Mm-hmm. And if we're going to serve the creator, there are going to be times we're going to have to say no to these other things, these other people, these other philosophies, and it may and will cost us. But that, for me, it gets down to the point of it's an issue of, am I willing to die to my will, my desires, my wants, or not? Again, it's easy for you and me to say that, because I'm not the baker, I'm not the florist that's going through all these things. But at the same time, it's easy for me to see that this principle must hold true in every situation that we find ourselves, whatever our business. I'm in the ministry. That's my quote unquote business, so to speak. And saying some of the things that I say, believing what I believe, teaching what I teach has cost me. It's cost me a lot in some respects. And there's sometimes, that I go, well, if I'd done this, or if I hadn't done that, then this, that, and the other. But I'm trying to, get what I want, or my desire. And it shouldn't be about that if we are a believer. And so, and I hope you can still hear me okay, just tagging on this thought to that one. If I am going to follow the Messiah, if I am going to take up my cross and follow him, it's about self-denial. It's about paying the price, paying the costs that are incurred. And that might mean that people are going to get offended.
Yeah.
But who am I more willing to offend, them or God?
Right. No, and that is what it comes down to. Jeffrey said, Susan, you're right. We need to remember that times will get very challenging for followers of Yeshua, Jesus, as we get closer and closer to the second coming. And I think, it's absolutely true. And a lot of times, Bill, too, that these businesses aren't very supportive. Like, for example, Dairy Queen came out and said, the American Dairy Queen Corporation does not encourage our independently owned and operated franchisees to post non-business related messages in their locations or on their external reader boards. This sign expresses the views of this independent owner only and does not speak for the ADQ Corporation or any of the affiliates, blah, blah, blah. Again, we've got people who are, and I understand they're a corporation. They don't want to get sued. They want to say, you're kind of on your own, guy. You didn't do exactly what we wanted you to. While I understand that, it's hard as a franchisee owner or somebody who has a parent company to try to go and do things as the way God would want them to do rather than, what the company would want them to do. And as you said, we're not in their shoes. I would hope if I were in his shoes, I would do exactly what he did. So. And that's the way I kind of look at it. But people, it's not only about Christianity that they get offended. They got offended at this same corporation because he handed out free ice cream to veterans on Veterans Day.
Oh, okay. So somebody got offended that he gave ice cream to veterans.
Yeah, for free. Yeah, free ice cream. They didn't like it.
Okay, well, that person just needs to be slapped. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to do with that. They just need to be slapped.
A Southern slap, not for real slap, but a Southern slap. I'm saying.
Bless their little hearts.
Bless their hearts. Absolutely. I know. I mean, some people, no matter what, you are just not going to make them happy. And I don't care how many rules you come up with at a corporation. There's going to be something that offends somebody. And it's very sad, and the political correctness has led us to this point.
Well, those people that get offended at things like that, you see, they do not live lives of self-denial. Right. They live lives of self-absorption. It's all about me, what I want, my will, my desire. And that is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Antichrist, as far as the mentality. It really is. Because Messiah is all about oneself. So the Antichrist is going to be about self. It's going to be the exact opposite. It's going to be about me, what I want, what I desire. So that's what we're up against.
I was glad to see there's another case, a baker in Colorado, where this couple came in and asked them to bake a cake, and they decided they didn't want to. He decided he didn't want to bake a cake because of his religious beliefs. And as you recall, under President Obama, former President Obama, there was a case with Baker, and they basically lost everything. And now with Donald Trump's administration, he is defending these people, saying these are your religious beliefs. You have a right to have your religious beliefs, as long as you're not discriminating against somebody. Because I guess in Colorado, there was a Colorado civil rights law that prohibits discrimination on sexual orientation. And what the Trump administration essentially is saying, they weren't discriminated against because they were gay. They were told, I can't bake a cake for you because it would intertwine me into something that is not based upon biblical principles. It's a different way of looking at it, and it's a correct way, I think.
How many times can you hear me?
Yes.
Is everything coming through right now?
Yes.
Okay. Again, I apologize, everybody. All my life, I have gone into places that have little signs that says, no shirt, no shoes, no service. And we all understood that.
It's even a country song. It's even a country song.
Sorry, what?
I said they even made a country song out of it. It was so important.
Oh, did they? Oh, I didn't listen to it, so I don't know about that. But yeah, and so it's amazing to me that someone can put up a sign that says, if you're not wearing a shirt, if you don't have any shoes on, and they've added this, if you don't pull up your britches, don't come in here. People understand that. But if you say, you know what, I can't participate in this because it goes against my conscience, well, that becomes a federal case. I hope that the Justice Department will, in their position on this, the Trump administration Justice Department, I hope that this will have bearing on the conclusion of this case, and I hope them to keep their business and run it the way they see fit. And if not,
yeah, I know. I mean, it would be nice to be able, again, and I think that I like the distinction. You're not discriminating. You're not saying I don't like you because of your race or of your sexual orientation, or that you're male and not female, or anything else like that. It is saying, based upon my own religious beliefs, if anything that goes against biblical principles, I can't participate in. And that really is a total opposite way of how the Obama administration dealt with things and how the judges under that administration handled cases. It was more of, or less, it didn't matter. Anything that was, your own personal beliefs were thrown out the window. Nobody cared. And it was automatically looked at, well, as you're a racist, or you're homophobic, or whatever the case may be. And now we're coming back to more of, I'll just say it, common sense, rational way of looking at things under this administration when it comes to issues like this.
Is this a pending case, or what's the situation?
It is. Yeah, it's going on right now. Just
okay.
No outcome yet.
Well, hopefully it's going to be a good outcome for these people. And, we need to pray for people like that are taking a stand, and putting it on the line. We need to support them in every way we can. First and foremost, prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another thing that I'm kind of seeing too, recently the Pope, we were talking about Catholics today in the very beginning here, and we'll conclude with this. But the Pope was coming out against President Trump and pushing this pro-life thing, which, you'd expect to see from and hear from the Pope. But what I've noticed is now that those on the left, and that includes the Pope, who has very left-leaning ways of looking at things, most likely from where he's from in the country that he's from. But he's taken the definition of pro-life and has said, if President Trump doesn't allow for the Dreamers to stay here, doesn't allow for DACA to become law, then he's not a pro-life president.
Well, isn't that special? Why don't we ask him why there are guards posted around the Vatican? Why is there a Swiss guard? And shouldn't you remove those guards? Shouldn't you remove those barriers and allow people just to come in and to occupy and to find a place to live within that vast compound that's called the Vatican, if he's so pro-life in that respect? It's socialism and communism and this progressive way of thinking knows no bounds. And, with all due respect to anyone who's listening, who's Catholic, I'm sorry, but I'm not Catholic. I do not believe the Pope is infallible. I believe he's a man just like everybody else. And in this regard, he's just dead wrong, because you want to keep against life doesn't mean you're trying to destroy life. As I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the Declaration, it says that we are given certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In follow-up to that declaration was a constitution that said these are the laws, and government exists primarily to promote the fact that people have rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these laws are to enhance life, not to demean it, not to oppress it, but to enhance our lives as citizens. So, with all due respect to the Pope as a spiritual leader, he's dead wrong on that statement, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and a lot of people are being very critical of what he said, because they believe that part of the Catholic Charities is there's only 9 organizations in the United States that are allowed to bring in refugees and actually benefit from them, I should say, by the financial gain that they get. Catholic Charities and as well as other charities, the other 8 are allowed to get about $2,000 per person of those that are illegally here. And they get other benefits, when they're helping people that are here illegally. And and Steve Bannon came out recently and said one of the things that the Catholic Church needs it to keep the Catholic Church going, to keep bodies, coming into the church and paying money into the collection plate and things of that nature. I find it very interesting that when the Pope met with Obama, he didn't talk to Obama about Obama's quote unquote pro-life stance, which was basically that he believed in partial birth abortion. And I didn't see the Pope at that time saying to him, you got to change your ways. This is absolutely wrong. You can't go around killing babies like that. I mean, am I wrong about that?
I don't recall, so I won't be dogmatic, but it certainly doesn't stick out in my mind that he was calling Obama on the carpet. It maybe he did, but I just don't know.
Yeah, he didn't.
Okay.
What he did was he talked about religious beliefs, wanting everybody to have, be able to have their religious beliefs with Obama. But he agreed with Obama on so much because they both believe very, very strongly in climate change, and they both believe in illegal immigration. So there wasn't, I think, too much that the Pope found wrong with President Obama.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that the Pope is philosophically very much in line with what the Obama administration was about, which puts me at odds with the Pope, on several fronts.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's, and with Donald Trump too, he is not, he's not pro climate change. I mean, and Donald Trump has come out and said that, he is pro life, but I think again, it's in my opinion, that it's the Pope pushing his own agenda for illegal immigration, to fulfill a financial interest on the part of the Catholic charities and to have people in the church. Well,
speaking as an American, Mr. Pope, why don't you just stick to running the Vatican and let us handle this over here?
Well, and also that's, you make a good point, because a lot of people think that he has gotten way too far into politics, which is I don't know, should raise a lot of eyebrows.
Well, the papacy has been involved with politics for a long, long time.
Yeah.
The papacy, as far as Bill is concerned, is a political position, more or less, or an institution. And so, I'm not surprised that he's going to say something political. But it's just that, that's really a dumb thing to say. It really just continues to expose your political leanings. And as an American, once again, it's none of your business.
Yeah. No, I believe that too. And Joseph says, I remember a pastor that said, well, which I know is now correct, true love has strong borders.
God is the one who established borders, whether it's natural, physical borders, spiritual borders. That's what God's instructions are all about, borders. If you get outside of the border, you're going to run into problems. And there was something that you said a while ago that prompted this thought. I have borders that I set up in my life. And when you make a choice, you want to be a homosexual and you want to get married to another fella, and you come into my business, because you've made choices, that forces me to make choices. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep those borders. I'm going to keep those boundaries up. And you're offended, but I'm not going to erase the border just because it offends you. So, right. And when it comes to DACA and that concept, relating it to what the Pope said and all, I see it that the present administration, at least verbally, is saying we believe in secure borders. We're going to take measures to enforce that and the rule of law, and we're not against people who want to come here the right way, but right. You're not going to cut in line because we're going to enforce the borders. I hope that stays true. I hope they follow through with all that.
Yeah, so do I. And I want to say we're running out of time. I want to thank everybody for being here today. We're sorry again about the technical problems, but that's the hurricane situation. And hopefully next week we will have all those problems resolved. So thank you again for being here. God bless you. We'll see you again next week. Take care.
Okay.